Hey guys, Stellar here. I'm back with another video for you guys, and now comes the part of the story that I am least proud of. But I have taken accountability for my own actions, my own words, and my own crappy behavior. And before I go on any further, let me just make something very clear here. I have never once said that it was Dee that made things public first. I've never said that. I've never said that because I'm guilty of doing that, of making things public first. Well, not first, but second. Anyhow, as I said in my last video, Kaylee left the DM group on February 1st. Everything was happening so fast. Everything was so out of control. There were things being said left and right. People's feelings were getting hurt. It was just crazy, complete chaos. But we had hoped that somehow after everything blew over and everybody had a chance to cool down, everything would be fine and we'd resolve things and everything would be okay. Well, that wasn't going to be the case. If anything, things only started getting worse because soon there were tweets being posted that kind of hinted around that there were problems with us. And these tweets only led to more anger and more hurt feelings. The tweets made things very obvious that there was something going on within the group. Soon people started taking notice and they started to question, hey, what's going on? What's going on between K and D? What's going on with the group? What is going on? They wanted to know. They wanted answers because they had seen a little bit play out on Twitter. So for the most part, we tried to ignore it and blow it off, just kind of play it off like, oh, there's nothing, we're fine, because we didn't want any of this out there. We didn't want people to know our business. We tried to hold it together, but at this point, it was too late, and soon enough, all hell was going to break loose. And this time, it was going to happen in a very public way. On the morning of February 4th, I had seen that Kaylee had taken to a live stream where she was telling those in her chat what had transpired just a few days earlier with the group. I was floored because I had really hoped that it wasn't going to come down to this, especially since all of our emotions were still raw. I listened to her recount the situation, which from my point of view was really one-sided. And I was frantically trying to reach out to the others because they weren't around and I wanted them to know what was going on. But I couldn't get a hold of nobody, and I felt really frustrated. I became more and more frustrated, and I really was feeling like betrayed. As I sat and listened, I became infuriated because the chat was only hearing one side, and it really had made us look really bad. It made us look like we just threw Kaylee out of the group, and we never tried to discuss anything. We never tried to make things right. We never tried to give her a fair chance, and it just seemed like she was the victim in all of it, like nobody tried to help her, and that wasn't the case. But none of us were there to defend ourselves against what was being said, and by the end of the stream, I was livid. And this is where one of my biggest mistakes came in. Rather than settle myself down and collect my thoughts like I usually do, I decided, hey, I'm going to fire up a stream too, and I'm going to put everything out there. I'll put my 2 cents in. Now that was really stupid because I was very emotional. And I let the emotions get the better part of me. I guess you could say by then I was like in complete attack mode. I felt like it was such a slap in the face because we had done our best to really try to rectify the situation, to try to make things better, to try to reassure Kaylee that we wanted her in the group. And it was just a big blow because we had spent so much time trying to make things better, trying to work things out. So I was just really upset and very frustrated. And mind you, I had been sitting there listening to a lot of things that were being said, and I just felt that it was untrue and unfair. But with that said, the hardest thing for me was to see the horrible comments that were being made about each of us, not just one of us, each of us. Everybody had something to say. People were being downright cruel, and they didn't even know the whole story. They weren't getting the whole story. And they didn't understand. They didn't know what would happen, how it happened. I should have never taken to that live stream because I was the one that kept on telling people, don't make it public, don't make it public. But because I felt the need to defend my friends who were not there, defend the other members of the group, defend myself, I took to a live stream. And yeah, I was being hypocritical. I was being hypocritical because I was doing the same exact thing that I was telling others not to do. So anyhow, when the group found out what had happened, of course, they were very upset and they were furious. It was decided to do a live stream and have Kaylee and Dee on panel. And Just Being Me was moderating. And again, our emotions were just out of control, and we should have just waited, but we didn't. And it was going to play out publicly because these live streams were public, so let's settle this publicly. And it was a complete bust. I mean, nothing came out of it. Nothing good came out of it. As I had said before, nothing good was going to come from making any of this public. Nothing was settled. Nothing was rectified. Nothing. If anything, I think it just made it worse for everybody, because by then everybody was like having to pick a side or feeling like they had to pick a side, and it was just ugly. It was ugly. But again, I take responsibility for my crappy behavior. I should have just sat quietly, but no, there I was in the side chat, not just letting them two have it out. I mean, I kept throwing my 2 cents into the conversation, and I was pretty much provoking because I kept on saying, Kaylee, you should have kept this quiet, Kaylee. And she already knew that by then. She already knew that. But there I was, poking. Not only was I making myself look like an ass, I was coming off as aggressive and condescending towards Kaylee. And regardless of how angry I was or how I was feeling, I should have just shut my mouth and not continued to add insult to injury. And for that, I was disappointed in myself. I let people see a very ugly side of me, and for what? I was saying very mean things, and I was continuing to hurt someone who I swore just days earlier I would stand by. Yet, I felt like I was in a position where I needed to defend others that were in that group. And I needed to defend them because of some of the things that people were saying. I mean, there was just things coming out, and it was a bad situation. It was a bad situation for everybody. After that stream, after all the streams, after everything, I received a few very negative comments about my behavior, which really made me wish that I had just kept quiet, because I was the one that was preaching to the others about, keeping quiet, not bringing this public, and here I was saying things publicly when I was telling everybody to be quiet about it. So yeah, I was a complete hypocrite, and I felt like a complete asshole. I wish I had just walked away from that very day. I wish I would just been done with it, but I didn't want to give up on a group that I was having fun with. I liked doing the parodies, and I should have just walked away. I mean, I was even contemplating leaving YouTube at that time. I just thought I'd just be done with it and just be over it, because I don't do this. I don't do groups. For this reason, I don't do these kind of groups. So I really contemplated just leaving YouTube altogether. Anyhow, after that stream, the last stream that we did, Kaylee made apologies. And I reached out to her privately, and I accepted her apology, and I apologized to her as well. And this is how I explained it to her. Have you ever made your mother mad, and the first day she's so disappointed in you, and the second day she's just angry with you, maybe she just ignores you, she doesn't talk to you, and the third day she feels bad for scolding you, and by the fourth day she's over it? Well, that's kind of how I felt. So Kaylee and I had made amends, and she assured me that she was done and she wasn't going to be talking about it anymore, and she was done. She just let it go. However, at this point, it was made very clear that there was never going to be any kind of reconciliation between Dee and Kaylee. And again, I was feeling left in the middle, feeling like, do I have to choose? Am I going to be forced to choose? Here I was just making amends with Kaylee, but I know that that wasn't going to sit well with Dee, and I didn't know if it was going to sit well with others in the group, and I was just kind of like, what do I do? So anyhow, I made amends with Kaylee, and that was that. But Dee still felt like she needed to tell her side, and she wanted to tell her side, and she wanted to set things straight because there was a lot said during those streams. And again, we tried to encourage her just to let it go and just let it go. Let it go. Especially with everything that had, happened over the past few days. We're just like, let it go, just let it go. But we knew it wasn't going to happen. And to be honest, we knew that it was not going to be the end of it at all. So yes, I knew that this was not going to go away. I knew that this was far from being over. I knew that sooner or later, everything was going to be put out in the open. Little did I know that I'd have to make videos talking about it, but like I said, if I'm going to be falsely accused, as I have been for months, I'm going to set the record straight. Now, I'm sure that many of you have heard Dee say, I couldn't talk about it. I was told to not talk about it. Nana told me not to talk about it. She told me not to talk about it. She told me I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't talk about it. I was silenced. I'm sure you've heard her say that because she's said that many a times. But let me ask you this. Do I really have control over somebody? Do I influence someone so much that they're going to listen to my words rather than do what they feel they need to do to defend themselves, to set the record straight, to explain things? Come on now. But I've been dealing with that for months and months and months, and I have had that thrown in my face over and over and over and over, and I'm over it. I'm sick of it. She could have made videos whenever she wanted to. She could have gone on a live stream and talked about it whenever she wanted to. I merely made the suggestion after everything that happened, after everything played out in the public, okay, let's just not talk about it. Let's get over it. Let's move on. If you need to vent, vent to us about it. If you need to talk about it publicly, go ahead. Just do not mention me. Do not bring me up again because I don't want to be put in the middle of this. I don't want to do this again. So yes, I was back on that. Let's keep it private. Let's keep it between us. Let's not go public with this anymore. Look what happened when we went public with all of it. It didn't go well. Let's just let it go. Let's move forward. Please do not discuss this publicly anymore. Yes, I messed up and I went public with it, but let's keep it between us. Let's get over it. Let's get back to the fun stuff and get on with being the fun group that we were. I merely made a suggestion yet again. I never gave her any type of ultimatum. Oh, if you talk about it again, I'm not going to be your friend. Maybe that's what she thought. Maybe that's what it would have came down to. I don't know. But yes, again, I was back to the let's not talk about it. I'm tired of being blamed for that. How do I have so much control over somebody that they're going to listen to that when they feel the need to speak up and set the record straight for themselves? It's ridiculous. But I'm over it. So move on. That's the past. Move forward. Do what you need to do. I'm done with it. And one last thing before I go. Possibly you've heard Dee say this because she's made mention to it a couple times. Well, Nana kept talking about Kaylee, and Nana kept saying things about Kaylee, and Nana was talking about Kaylee, and it was hard for me to move on because Nana kept on saying things to me about Kaylee. True. I admit to it.
Now you might be asking yourself, well, wait a minute, why were you talking about Kaylee? Why were you talking about her if you guys had made amends? You see, things were never really the same after that first attempt of moving forward. I was still part of a group which she felt had betrayed her, and she felt like the group should have been dismantled. Let's just say that there was a lot of pettiness going on. There were also some choices that she had made that really had me concerned, and rather than keep my mouth shut because it was none of my business, I went to Kaylee privately and I voiced my concerns. Of course, that wasn't received very well, and she basically told me where I could go and where I could stick it. Her response didn't surprise me because, yeah, I probably would have done the same thing. We weren't on good terms, but my concerns were coming from a good place, and I just had to try. And, I didn't blame her for responding the way she did, and that was the end of that. So, yes, I was talking crap about that to Dee, as she's thrown it out there, but it was all done privately. So, when Dee made mention of that, oh, Nana's talking about Kaylee, I was like, what do you have to gain from that? Why put that out there? There were things that were said to you privately amongst us. But the way I saw it, she was trying to throw me under the bus. She was trying to discredit me. Funny how that works, right? Because she was guilty of doing the same exact thing. She's talked about many people privately. Yeah, so double standard there. So as to where Kaylee and I stand today, we're both good. We've worked things out. We worked things out back in July. You see, she and I have both experienced real life situations which have made us realize that all the pettiness that happened between us, it doesn't hold any value in our lives. So why keep on holding a grudge? We don't want to hold a grudge. We've made amends, we're good, and we're moving forward. And that's that. Anyhow, that's all I have for you guys today. Remember, each and every one of you are awesome. Now go out there and make it a stellar day.